Hello, my Bookhoarding. Today I'm going to finally get back to my ever after Whamageddon project. When last we left off, Whamageddon was deep in progress when I left for my honeymoon, and then I got back and I needed to finish my whole collection, my mini collection for a scholarship project, and then summer happened and finals were wrapping up and the strike started. I have mentioned before that I was intentionally not posting any kind of pop culture stuff from struck companies because of many reasons. One is that I'm actually a former SAG-AFTRA member. I have had a lot of jobs in media spaces, and I actually had a union job at one point. I don't want to have anything against me if I need to join SAG again, because I actually loved SAG. SAG had my back. They were amazing. They were 100%, like, I cannot recommend enough. If you have unions that you can join for work, like, spectacular. I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, any kind of scabbing is seen as a bad thing, that is seen as like a mark against you if you do want to join a union. And I think a lot of people also don't realize that, like, SAG isn't just for actors. I clearly am not like an actor. I worked in social media marketing, and those are a lot of times SAG contracts at a lot of places. Obviously too, it was in solidarity. Like, these are people who are like asking for like better working conditions, trying to protect their jobs, trying to have better pay. I was doing that in solidarity. I don't think it was okay to do like free promo for things personally. Other people had different opinions, and that's their opinion, but I was doing it for these reasons. And the second reason that I also did not post about this publicly until the strike was over was because I had a lot of feelings about Drew Barrymore being a scab. Like, I know that she did have a complicated contract situation, but I would say that the way that she went about talking about it publicly and the mess of apologies and things afterwards were not great. I think it showed that she didn't actually understand the nuance of the situation. Bad look, bad look. But after talking to dear friend Megan, gem of a human being, you know, realizing that Danielle De Barbarac would never have been a scab, I'm like, you know what? You're right. We're gonna do this. We're gonna keep on with this, because ever after Danielle would not. And she is not Drew Barrymore. So what I'm bringing to you today is going to be a combination of, like, obviously videos of me making this from over the summer, because I was just like, I do want to finish this while I have break before school comes back. And the second thing is going to be some research information. So I hope this is a helpful video if you are trying to make the ever after costumes or trying to get into Italian Renaissance construction thingies. In terms of research, I did quite a bit, and you're gonna have fun with this one if you are a nerd like me and like to figure out how to find dead sites. I will also be posting a link to a blog post in my description that's just going to have all this linked so that you don't have to like be trying to search for these. So just check out the blog post that's linked. Research for me started centrally in the movie, because the costumes in the movie do two things, right? They are, yes, trying to tell the story. There is storytelling in the costumes, but also they are playing with historical silhouettes, historical things. That being said, like, they're doing their own thing. She has wings. She's got like glitter makeup, and that's fine. I think it's beautiful. I think it worked totally for this movie. Because these are historically inspired, that is where I was going with this too. Because when researching the actual Italian like Renaissance and like construction, all that, I decided to be like, I'm inspired by it. This is where I'm going with it. So I will share the resources that I used, and you can choose which inspiration point you take from it. Starting with dress reference photos. One, I watched the movie so many times. Two, I looked online and I just bookmarked things and saved to my photo, like, little album on my phone thing, so I could look at, zoom in when I needed to when I was making it. Art of Costume has really great reference photos and discussion about the costumes in this. I am always and forever a fan of the Costumer's Guide to Movie Costumes, and she has a sub website just for the ever after costumes. In that, she links to, like, there's photos that other people took of this costume and their own recreations, and so there's resources there that's really helpful. There are going to be some dead sites along the way here, and I'm going to tell you how I get to them in a second. There are people who like saw this just at exhibits and took photos of that, and those are really, really helpful too, because they were really detailed shots and close-ups of it off an actor, not under a lot of you know, filters and all that, and special studio lighting. Recycled movie costumes was a place I stumbled upon too for a lot of this, just because, like, it's just fun to see where the costumes ended up, if they ended up somewhere else. Like, it wasn't necessarily helpful for this costume, but if you do want to get into like costuming and stuff, it is nice to see, hey, was this costume used somewhere else? maybe you can get better photos of it from that thing if you don't already. And one of the last things that I did see too was some images from Cosprop. Now that and like some historical things, the links don't work anymore. And I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do. You like right click, you grab the link, because if you go to like the site and like it just like redirects you, it's not going to help. But if you right click the link, like that's from the original page, like the costumer's guide page, you save that link, you go to the Wayback Machine and you pop it in. A lot of times it has stuff. Like it's not going to be amazing, it's not going to be great, but like I went back and I found the 2 original images from Cosprop of like their mood boarding of some Ever After costumes, and I just saved those so that I'd have them. It wasn't necessarily for this costume, it was for others, but I have them so that I can reference them later on. Okay, so that is just my way of saying please just get all the reference photos as much as possible when you're doing things. And again, I'm linking to what I got, so you can have those as a basis if you're making this dress. But that's how I started this research process. Then I moved on to historicals. The movie itself is set in 1502. Now, again, I'm going for historically inspired. I'm just going for the silhouette to try to match the movie. But this is a great place for you to start if you're trying to be historically accurate and like just look at the resources for just that year. Again, my secret weapon was Wayback Machine. And I guess if you don't understand what that is, it's like an internet archive tool that basically every once in a while like archives websites, and you can just look at them from different time periods and everything, like through the early 2000s. So it's really fun. It's really silly. It takes, I think, a little bit of like getting used to using it a couple times before you're like, aha, now I kind of see what would work and what's broken and what's not gonna work. Like a lot of menus are not gonna work, but like some link throughs do work. A lot of photos are dead links now. It's a give and take. So one of the things I found was this really cool diagram of an Italian Renaissance bodice on Pinterest, and I had to backwards compute like where it came from and everything. But the TLDR is that I did find a wonderful site that had Renaissance construction information. Specifically, it was from Festive Attire about a Florentine gown research project they were doing. And there's a ton of information on the page that, again, I'm going to link to. So this person spent time researching all this. And they also had a lot of information on the Eleonora de Toledo gown, which a lot of other people did as well. Like that's kind of like one of the big research like spike things for that era, because like there's so much information about that dress, about like her and like all the things that like belong to her and all that. So like that's a big one. I think Patterns of Fashion also had a pattern of that dress too. So like there's so much from this because it exists and we have, you know, a material component to work off of. So in your research, you're probably going to run across the Eleanor de Toledo dress a lot. I've seen it conjugated both ways, so sorry if I'm getting this wrong. Anyway, this person at Festive Attire, I don't know who you are, but thank you for this. I looked in the Wayback Machine and found their original research on this, and they talk about the different ways that they modified the Eleonora like bodice situation. And I basically used their diagram, I measured it, and I measured myself and expanded it a little bit. And then I made it work for me. And I'll get into that in a second, but that's where I really started, was that. And then I also looked at their research on how do they stiffen the bodice. So they definitely were like, a lot of people use canvas, a lot of people use blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I really like that used cording. So like, they talk about it, and I will say here, it's not necessarily historically accurate. Like, we don't know that they used cording, but I liked the idea of playing with that myself. So this has a layer of just quilted, like essentially quilted little cording in there for the support, because they weren't wearing under things and like the kind of like corset stays situation that we eventually do get to. The stiffening was happening internally in there somewhere. There may have been a couple of little kind of bralette looking things or something. I don't know. This is not my era yet. I will also link to some of the other Eleanor of Toledo dresses and like breakdowns and reconstructions that happen, because I think that is also really helpful just to like get an idea of how other people were making these kinds of dresses and like their approaches to stuff, especially if you are going for her really historically accurate. So yeah, I took the grid that I'm showing somewhere in here and I measured it. I put it out on like a gridded pattern paper that I have. And then I measured the different parts of it, like the bust and the under bust and, you know, a little bit of shoulder stuff. And I made a mock-up. So this is the actual construction part of this. I took that grid, expanded it, and I made a mock-up. I used brimnet fabric and some like duvet stuff that I had, because I was like, if anything, I can just use this as a cute little run fairy top when I'm done. And that was also an excuse to like play with the cording situation and just like get used to the idea of it, and like kind of break apart like what would construction for this bodice situation look like, what do I need to modify for when I'm making the actual ever after this thing, when I make this. I did use some spray starch to help like strengthen and like stiffen up that cording, and you can use like proper cording if you want. Like there are thicker cotton cords. I don't think I have any examples near me, but like there are thicker cording than I used. I just used what I had, which I don't care if it's not proper. I had it and I used it and it works. Deal with it. So I ended up making this. I ended up making some modifications to this for like where I wanted this to hit on me, and just like reminding myself that I needed a little space at the side so that it did actually have enough to cinch in, because it's not just that you want it to like meet each other. Like you want there to be a little bit of space where the lacing is, so it can actually pull in and be like taut around those places. At least like for me, I wanted that to like have some support for the titties. Can you say titties on here? I don't know. So at this point I started cutting into the fashion fabric. I did make more modifications, which I'm going to talk about shortly, but this was real deal. We're doing it. This is maybe my ever after build diary, because here we are. I have spent on and off my whole afternoon trying to fuck with this pattern, and I think it's in a good spot. I have backwards engineered and re-engineered multiple pieces because I keep cutting the wrong thing, and before I made like the pattern, because you know, you make a pattern if you're doing like for this, her little bodice is split, but I'm like, I still needed like a thing for it to all go on, so instead of cutting the pattern, I should have made a base without the added seam allowance. So many little things, little mistakes, because it's been a second since I made like an intricate pattern. Anyway, it is now cutting time. And I'm excited because I am using my Downton Abbey fabric that I got from my dead stock place for the liner for this, along with other things. I'm doing a little bit of like a light cording situation layer. It'll be some canvas with some buckram. It's not a ton. I'm just doing a little petite boob support. And then I will cut my beautiful fashion fabric, and I am terrified. So, lining first, then fashion fabric. So you can see here, it's some stiff buckram that I had, and some stiff canvas, and I'm just sewing a line, pulling the cord down, sewing a line, pulling the cord through. It's a pretty tedious process. Use your zipper foot. Highly recommend using your zipper foot for this, and taking your time, because you definitely don't want these to start getting wonky. You want them to stay even, and like not start doing funky patterns or whatever. Like, I do think that you could intentionally do some interesting stuff, but this is what I was doing. So yeah, I just made a strip because I really just needed it for like the boobage area, and you can see here I have just trimmed it down, and now I need to move into the fashion fabric. So that was on top of the lining. This beautiful fabric, I think, is from Renaissance Fabric. It was Frank's fabric, and I used it for myself, selfishly. So you could see here, I just kind of, yeah, I'm pinning this because I'm basically like, what seams need to look nice, and it's the top two. I'm going to serge that bottom seam, I'm pretty sure. And that middle thing, I'm doing that funky, like, fake insert with this silver fabric there. This could have been done differently and better, but this is how I did it. Then the back is just this very basic thing. Again, the grommets aren't in, but then the silver I did based in. I'm going to be covering some of my sloppy stitches with silver lace, so I'm fine with it. And yeah, you can see here, I made a little channel for boning because I'm going to put grommets in behind that. The boning is just going to be basic, like, you know, zip ties. But y'all can do what you want. I just wasn't going to hand do grommets. That's not going to happen. I did serge a few seams here because this beautiful fabric actually came apart really easy. And the Downton Abbey
quilting fabric, I got Fabrics, which is a dead stock place for like, I don't know, less than $5 a yard probably. Here is just me calculating the skirt length and being like, how much is in the yardage? Can I make it work? How long does it need to be? I use my little whiteboard for these calculations all the time, if that makes sense. And then I use, you can see here, that's just how this is going to look on the fabric that I have left. I'm trying to figure out skirt yardage. And don't forget, when you're doing this, to add that seam allowance on the side of the skirt. So like, I don't need enough seam allowance on the side, to like have grommets, because I'm not putting the grommets down through there, but I do need enough to like obviously serge it and then fold it over and like make that basic folded under hem. Yeah, and I know I'm gonna gather the extra, so I'm just letting the skirt hang overnight, as you should, because you really should let all skirt fabrics hang overnight. If you don't have a dress form, you know, you can use like a pants hanger or something. But I highly recommend if you're doing like long pieces of fabric, so that the stretch unevenness can get out of it that night before you hem it properly. I've just pinned in the little bows and the lace. I used like a really basic silver metallic-y thread, so that's why it's coming in from the back a little funky, because I want to not pull through because it's very slippery. And then I attach the skirt to the top, and I don't think I've done grommets at this point, but it's time to move on to the sleeves. Now, they are not attached like modern sleeves, right? And there's a gauntlet. So I started with the gauntlet because it's going to be 2 parts. It's like, looks like an ice cream cone. It's really funny to me. It's the gauntlet and then the 2 scoops of ice cream at top. So I did a bunch of measurements. I measured, you can see here, I measured my arm. Like from, I basically did like from around the knuckles to above the elbow. And then I measured like around my wrist and around like my forearm to make it happen. Then I made a bunch of cording from this and my little my safety pin and like little tool to like make things go inside out, outside in, whatever. I used that. So I used whatever scrap I had to make these little cords, and I'm going to use that to make little loops so that these can cinch onto my arms and stay pretty tight. And obviously too, I patterned it so that like there would be about an inch gap, if not 2 inches, because I know that these are going to be kind of bulky loops that I'm doing. So yeah, I just pin them in the seam allowance. So you can see they're just up, down, up, down, up, down. These are not fancy. These are really basic, but I wanted it to be out of the self fabric so it could look really cool. I don't know, I'm really proud of this. This took a lot of little like fiddly work, and this fabric wasn't the easiest to turn inside out, whatever. Words are really hard today. So there's the gauntlet. Everything is pinned for the next one, and then this is the first one. Done, diddly done. I did top stitch everything after I ever got everything got pulled right side out, just because I wanted to. This ribbon is obviously like not the best color for this, but it's what I have right now, so that's what I'm gonna use. I will probably only change this if I run across better in the wild at like the reuse store. Now it's time for the 2 ice cream scoops. So I'm using my Downton Abbey fabric yet again for the sleeve, and these are the little like plumper things I use, which was just heavily interfaced Downton Abbey fabrics, these little kind of like half moon ish things, and I'm going to be gathering them and putting them inside the sleeve to help with that. And then these are just the long strips that I used for the actual outside of the ice cream scoops. They are a little bit taller and much wider to give extra poof to these sleeves. So you can see here the Downton Abbey fabric is the inside of the sleeve, the outside of the sleeve is this fashion fabric, and inside, slow one-handed reveal, is this big puffer that I made, which is just the gathered, very stiffened thing, just to like hold the puff out, if that makes sense. And I think it does a pretty good job, to be honest, considering I just freestyled this.
Okay, I have made such progress on this. Added the details, which I'm very proud of, and then I'm really proud of this little lace stuff. I still need to add the grommets on the side, get rid of some threads, grommets on the side to hold it in place, and then I also am working on the sleeves, and the sleeves are going to be a multi-part process because I gotta put them on the things. I made bases for them to kind of help maintain some volume, and then I also added some interface pieces to kind of help with giving it a little extra poof. And then I need to attach those to the arm gauntlets that I made, and then eventually make actual better ribbon for all these. So yeah, progress has been made. I just need to finish the sleeves today, I think, and then I need to move on to doing some of my partner's whams. So continuing forever.
All right, so the top puffs are in, they're done. Now it's time for the bottom puffs. So you can see I sewed it with right sides together, and then I'm flipping it around, and I gathered it. I did really basic, like chunky pleats for this because this is a pretty stiff fabric, and I didn't think the fine little gathering would really make that much of a difference. And this is what I chose to do. So you're welcome. So yeah, and then before I flipped the fabric over, I pinned in the next puffer situation that I was going for. I think these worked pretty well, to be honest. Like, look at that volume. It's a lot. It's nice. I think it worked out lovely. And then I started hatching the gauntlets. I mean, it's pretty simple. The opening is like toward my body, toward like the inside seam. Yeah. I think I just slid the gauntlet under and just sewed it in.
Look upon my work, look upon my child. Overall, I'm very pleased with how it came out. I think this is where I'm gonna stop because I'm about to go on vacation and I need to record other videos. Now I need to also move on to Frank's outfit because that's important too, right? Hiccups.
Okay, so here's some photos of just this in action. So obviously, I did not finish Frank's whams in time for this event. This was just my local costume guild went to this Tudor exhibit at the Legion of Honor, and I took some photos of us inside. Yeah, we're wearing masks because, like, COVID is still highly transmissible, and it was a very crowded day at the museum. The armor is just gorgeous. It is beautiful. There are lots of famous paintings. Like, if you have studied a lot of historical stuff, you will have recognized them. There are also like embroidery patterns. Here's some stuff on like the black work example they had here. This iconic Elizabeth portrait with all of the mystical animals that are embroidered there. So there was just like a ton here that was like on the material culture. So we have like the portraits of like knights, but we also have like things from Tudor households. There were tables, there's like tableware, more iconic Tudor portraits, and kind of like the splendor of the time. Yes, I wore Italian Renaissance to this. I thought it was funny as I kind of like, haha, we're just visiting Jane Seymour out here. And yeah, we just like had fun, looked around, pretended like we were in like a little wood paneled Tudor home sometimes, or a cathedral, and we took some photos outside, a little bit of video, but nothing too much. I hope to by the time this video is ready actually have added some stuff, but we had a good time. It worked, and I need to definitely make Frank his whams so that we can look all kinds of wonderful together.
The Princess Red Utopia.
Yes, but I've heard you found it sentimental and dull.
Oh, so you're not the prince. Okay, so that is pretty much the construction for this dress. There might have been a couple steps like I didn't take great photos of or video of, and I'm sorry about that, but I am trying to share with you all that I do have. Part of the problem of like making this months ago and now trying to revisit it is that like some of the stuff just isn't there anymore. I did try to save everything that I could, because I do purge my phone every once in a while because I have to use it for work, and a lot of stuff gets saved there. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I do really want, if folks have questions, like I will answer them. I will tell you what I know. I will give you all the information I have about this because I don't want to keep this process. It was really fun. I think it's a really pretty dress. And next time on Bookhoarding by Bianca, I'm going to finish those whams. We're going to do it. Patrons, you actually saw this project back in like August. So thank you for hanging out on this, I guess, and chilling and having fun with it, and encouraging through the process. If you would like to join my Patreon, guess what? You can. All of the like funding helps me like, I guess, do projects in the summer and also pay for school supplies during the school year, which are very expensive. And if you don't know, I'm in a costume design program, MFA, right now, living my best life. So if you want to support that so I can actually have supplies for things, that'd be great. You can also leave me a tip on coffee if you don't want to join Patreon and get like updates on what I'm doing, what I'm up to. And you know, there's like voting power there too, and a special patron only Discord where you get to see all the behind the scenes as I'm making things in my sewing room. Like, what is this? Ooh, they know. You don't know. Or maybe you can guess. All right, with that, thank you for joining me, and don't forget to make it so. The Princess Red Utopia.